beautiful souls, and welcome back to the Alchemist and the Oracle, a space where we engage in spiritualized conversations that deepen understanding, inspire transformation, and spark meaningful dialogue about life's most profound truths. I am Nicole of the Oracle, and I am joined by my amazing, wonderful, talented, Warrioress Ardeshir RN, better known as the Alchemist. So
hey,
welcome
everyone.
to our channel. Today we're going to be digging deeper. Did I even form a sentence there?
That's all good.
Let's try it again. Today we're digging deeper when it comes to being a Black woman in this very interesting world that we live in. What a time to be alive, right?
Yes.
Black woman.
Yes.
So picking up on our previous conversation on last week's episode, where do you want to go? Where should we go to dig deeper when it comes to like being a Black woman? Okay, so you think about how society here in America profits from Black women's creativity, labor, and culture. What comes to mind around that for you?
It was kind of just brought up by, someone I know that I know from a different state. That has a lot to do with our culture around black hair care, Black skin care, products of that nature. And this has been around for a little bit, even when I realized when I left to go overseas and when I come back, which is a while ago, and coming back and trying to seek, things for my hair care at the time, which was much longer and different, and leaving and having those particular places owned by black entrepreneurs at the time, supporting what they knew about our skin and Black hair care. So there was a time, for an example, when I came back on leave at home, for example, and I went into one of the stores and I didn't see anybody of color. So it was this particular store, which had all the products surrounding Black hair care, was owned by Koreans at the time. And I had just left that particular country. And so I'm asking for certain things, for example, and they didn't know what I was talking about, or couldn't help me. So it was just basically going into the store and trying to find what I was looking for, or try to get what it is that I needed, that I was used to, in a store where us would have known right away how to assist me in that, knowing the culture, the texture, the different things, and what I was trying to accomplish. So that's one of the examples. And not taking the time to get to know, what you're selling. That's problematic.
Yeah, I think
Even with skincare.
excuse me. I think it's so interesting how people are willing to profit off of cultural capitalism, lack of a better term.
Yes.
And what I think is part of what annoys Black people, Black women specifically, hair care, skincare wise, is that they'll take your money, but they don't really care about you. They see
Okay.
you more as a commodity and not as a person.
Right. 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 Yeah, it's come to that, unfortunately.
So
Um,
it comes off as very disingenuous, and especially when you have businesses that come into your community, and there's just this level of disrespect where they have these stereotypes that they lean into in terms of how they create that experience.
mm-hmm.
And it's so curious because you can see them with someone that's not black, say, oh, someone that maybe is like looks like more like them, or like a white woman comes in, right?
Yeah.
And now you kind of see this a lot more, that you have white women who have biracial children. And so they're coming into a lot of these stores to get the hair care needs that their children need, that they can't get from like a traditional store.
That's true.
Or what have you. And they get treated much more differently, to the point where now I'm talking. I remember being in this store where it was this white woman and this young girl, and I was trying to figure out. It looked like they were together, and come to find out after watching the scene play out, that was her daughter.
Okay.
And so her daughter looked nothing like her. She did not look like a mixed child. Mixed, what does that even mean, right? But
yeah,
she was very dark skinned. She was darker than me. Dark skin.
Biracial is still a term.
Hair. Yeah, this was like a couple years ago. And so the white lady is like looking over here. She's just kind of browsing the store. Her daughter's the one that's actually shopping, because her daughter knows what she wants to get and her mother's just paying for it, right? You see it all the time. And so she goes to her mom kind of off. And it's funny because the lady that runs the store, that was working the store, she kept asking the white lady, like, hey, can I help you? Do you need anything? And she said, no, I'm good. But you may want to ask her to see. She never went over there and asked the girl. Never. And she's the one that's actually shopping. But the white woman, her mother, let's just say her mother, she didn't know. She just probably assumed, like, go ask her. And so she gets up to the counter, and it's one of those stores where everything is behind a lock case. And that is like the most annoying thing when you're trying to look at things and like you want to like kind of compare things. It's like,
yes,
you have to like, no, not that, no, that, versus like if it's out, I can like reach for the one that I really want. And sometimes you kind of want to compare things. And so she was kind of getting annoyed with the girl and what have you. And so her mother comes over. They're kind of having this exchange, because the girl's not really entirely sure what she wants. She kind of wants to look at more than like two things. And the lady was saying, no, there's a limit. You can only like look at two things behind the case. And so the girl just kind of is like, okay. Her mother comes over finally, and she's like, well, what's going on here? And so the lady's like, oh, can I help you? Do you need anything behind the case? She says, no. She said, no, I'm here with her. This is my daughter. The lady's face, her eyes got really big. And she was like, oh. She said, I didn't know that. And the lady,
she didn't need to know that.
Her mother said, what difference does it make?
I know. There you go.
And so she was like, well, if I would have known that this was your daughter, I would have made sure that she got what she needed. And the people in the store were like, wait a minute.
I know it got quiet in there, didn't it?
Everyone was looking, because it's a tiny little store. Everyone was looking. And
girl, I know.
And so the white lady, her mother just goes off on her, and she's just like, So you mean to tell me
Very cool.
that you were asking me questions and things like that, and I kept telling you, go ask my daughter. And so she asked her daughter, she said, did she ever come over to you and ask you
Oh
if you
no.
could help? And she was like, no. And so the lady just goes off, and the lady that the clerk is just so oh, I'm so sorry. She's never apologized to the daughter. She's apologizing
Of course not. Isn't to the mother.
She's like, oh, I'm so sorry. No, that wasn't my intention. And the mother called it out. She says, and yet again, here you are apologizing to me when you need to be apologizing to her. She said, you can't even look her in the eyes. And so she was like, we're gone. She said, She said, my daughter deserves better than that. And I will tell you,
I love that.
If you have biracial children, I love seeing white women who fight for their children, that call out bullshit, right? Because I mean, they have the power to do that. And I think if you have the power, you speak up and you protect your children. And so in the store, she hadn't even left the store. She grabbed her daughter and she said, look at me. She said, look at me. She says, you're better than this. You don't deserve this type of treatment just because you don't look like me. She said, we don't shop at places where people look at you differently than me. She said, we shop at places that see you in the same way that you see me. She said, let's get the fuck out of here. Fuck this place. And she was just like, grabbed her daughter and walked out. And people started clapping. And everyone in the store left.
Wow.
Everyone in the store left. So that's a prime example that I know a lot of people can relate to in some level, where they get annoyed at you for asking questions or they follow you around.
That right there.
I will say, I
got an example for that.
That it's not as bad now, because I think the generations, there's been a change of guard. And I think Black people have made it be known, like, if you're going to follow me, I'm not going to like shop in your store. I'm not going to shop in your store.
Walk. Yeah.
And so I think we have to use our voice and push back on how people come into our communities and treat us like we're beneath them. And it's like, no, you want my money. This is a business interaction. You're supposed to cater to my needs. You're supposed to ask me, do I need anything? Not me following you around hoping that you'll service me. Like, it's just crazy. So that's definitely a lived experience. I think it's sad to see that plays out. I know that's the frustration that a lot of Black women have is like, you come into our communities, you take our money, but then you don't have respect for the hand that's giving you the money.
Yeah, so you put a business here, in this environment, and then, like you said, don't have the respect.
And they're profitizing off of us.
That's exactly what.
And it's just so frustrating.
And I know in the other state is putting a light on again and again, and then considering that I was married. Oh wow, sharing a lot right now.
Ooh, we getting into it. Let me got my tea. What's she gonna share?
Oh Lord, outside my race, and we come to.
They come to realize. You said a full sentence.
I did.
Wait a minute.
I did.
Those were just words. But I guess that could be a sentence.
Okay.
Let's try that again.
Right.
Oh my God.
I didn't. Okay. I was married to someone outside my race. So
There it is.
is that but it was what I lovely, lovely, beautiful person. So oh no, so and I mean, knowing me and who I am and whose I am, we got to talking or something was going on in the store and they said or became aware that I was being watched.
Oh.
And I'm like, who? Me? Me?
She said me.
Me? And it became more aware and look at me. So it didn't really matter. And so what you're saying and that, and then it reminds me of this is us
Oh,
because of the yep.
yes.
Yeah. And not understanding your job, but you have to learn what they're going to go through. And that mother, oh my God, that's all I can say.
Yeah.
And one of my friends actually does something to educate. And then there's a couple I just seen on her one thing said, thank you for coming and basically educating them on how to support Black women. And she got a couple other books that I bring up.
Do you know her? What's her name?
Patrice Jackson.
Okay. We'll put her information down below.
Yeah, I'm gonna, and a couple of her books that support the education of that, because she was traveling to different cities where the Caucasian women were setting her up so she could educate them on how to support Black women here in America and this and that. Matter of fact, I need to reach out to her anyway. A matter of fact, because we've been kind of reconnecting here, kind of with her posting and some other things that she's doing, and open that up, because I mean, you know, we love our people. It's like my grandmother worked for people. We love people, we service people, but the innate thing that's continuing to go on cannot just be brushed up under a carpet. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean, it is that, considering I married out, that had nothing to do with that. But if you do that, like I said, you culturally have to do that. And even when I got to the state that I lived in, secondary to my home state, was that in around the colleges, you see a lot of people dating outside their race. You
Well, I
see a
have a
lot of Black men
question.
with
I
white
have a
women, this,
question.
that. What's that, sweetie?
What was the conversation around like with you and your partner at the time, your wife at the time, about you being watched? Did you guys have a conversation about it? Like, did she talk about her experience of seeing you go through that?
And no, and that was the problem. It's probably because of yeah.
But she recognized it, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
She called it out.
Yeah.
Was she upset about it at all? Or it was just confused? Or both?
I don't know. I don't remember the upset, but it was an awareness. And I remember my reaction was similar to what I just showed here about me knowing that, and not only probably has been happening the whole time. And I've noticed some other stuff that's went down in my experience with people coming over or doing that. Then there's other experience where I wasn't, where I was mentioned, somebody said, well, I might get treated a certain way because of my complexion. Well, I might get treated a different way that you might not expect because of it. But we didn't have it, and it kind of sucks that we didn't go into detail. I don't think that happened, and it probably should have. And I remember some other stuff because I was a little older, a lot, and being around certain people. And I don't like to be hushed either, because, you know, Yeah, that's just a no. So, in speaking, you know, ask me, people either get that, and I'm around a lot of people that love me. I mean, and around a lot of white people. I mean, and loved by them, helped, and vice versa. So, but the essence of what like happened in 2020 and all this, people did not believe that what was being said or what we were saying was true.
Mm.
And the light continues to come out on some things and how we're treated regardless to that. But if I'm here to spend money, how would you treat me any different if I'm here to spend my money?
Yeah.
That's one of the other things. And so the discussions need to happen if you're going to, just because it's just like one of my other, when I know she, you know, kind of keeps it real, but I like to say, even though, just to get off the subject, that if you're friends with somebody, and you can be friends with somebody and not know that something is going on with somebody, does not mean that that's what you're doing. But cultures would say, yes, that is what you're doing. So the thing of it is that you can't make assumptions. And if you're going to be in an interracial relationship here, to me, in America, then you have to have the discussions.
Yeah, you
You
do.
have to have the discussions, and then people say, "Well, why black women are trying to stop the, you know, tired of trying to educate white people, because the information is out there." And now
So
that we
what's the
mentioned her,
discussion? What's the discussion you think needs to be had?
this, especially supporting like that mother did that child, that needs to happen more.
Yeah, yeah.
That needs to happen more. Even not even mother child, but friends.
Just
Yeah, have
just
a
just
friendship,
no matter who they are.
relationships. Yeah,
I think
yeah, exactly.
there's this I'm really bad at people's names because I just watch so much stuff. I don't remember people's names. But he was talking about how it's a white man and he's trying to talk to white people around racism and how to be better white people is what he says. Like this is how you need to be better white people in America. And one of the things he says is that if you're a good white person when you can stand up for someone that you don't know.
Yes, yes.
He said
yes.
it's not about the people that you care about because you know about them. He said it's the people that you don't know. That's how you
Yes.
can demonstrate that you are a good white person. And I like how he speaks in that way because it just like it gets to the root of things.
I wonder what his name is, because there's a couple where we
Remember his
say
name.
allies, but I'm gonna pull up. You've heard of the oh, this woman, I think she's, yeah. You called, is it the brown eye? Hold on.
Oh, brown-eyed. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a psychologist. Had a baby later
Yes.
in life. Yeah. I know her.
She's a little bit older. She's done
Brown-eyed
college.
beauty or something like that.
No, it's the brown eye experiment. Let me see if it'll pull it up.
Oh, you're not talking about the person.
Blue eye, brown eye. I think I'm dealing with somebody different. Oh God, I've had her. Here she is, Jane Elliott.
Oh, Jane.
And she does the blue eye, brown eyes, yeah, exercise, and I mean, it's crazy when this one young student, and she puts it on there, and you see this woman she actually leaves the room, and she, you know, and Elliot, she's just like, you know, you have no clue if you think that is hard, that this one walked out the room and gets on her of what a black person actually goes through.
Yeah.
That's a black man. We won't even talk about the men. That's a whole separate
some
puppy,
of
and
it
I can get into that.
It's that microaggressions. It's on that micro
Yes, that's
level.
exactly what she puts on there. Yes.
But
And then there's another guy, but I know Jane Elliott.
Yeah, I like her.
And I learned her because of the person who we mentioned, and
I
I'm
like
gonna
her
get her so I
delivery.
can
Jane
get
Elliott, I'll
to,
put her down in the description
yeah,
box as
and
well.
get the books for my girl. I guess I'll reach out to her sometime today to Reese Jackson in the books for that that she has. Oh wow, this is just so dope. So and like you said, and just the love, because the conversations, us having this conversation is is so right on time and needed, and for everybody to understand that it's not so much about this race or that race, but the fact that things are what they are in the moment and have been, and to try to come together um in light, which is knowledge and not assumption. And some people say, oh, I'm not this because I have a black friend. No, it's what do you know about the culture of this friend of yours, or this person you're trying to date of yours, or
Yeah.
this, yeah.
But because I
And
had
that's
like
why,
an interesting conversation with a white friend of mine, and for a really long time it was just kind of surface level. And
yes,
then
mostly,
around, the time of when George Floyd, got murdered, um,
yes, that,
it she asked me the question about like what I felt about it, and
mm,
for the first time we went very deep, and
mm-hmm.
she was asking me questions, and I was like, I don't know how to explain it. It's just
Yeah,
something you have to experience. And then it made me wonder, like, have I gotten so used to it that I'm not even able to articulate it?
that right there, that too.
Subconsciously, I I experience it, but then I don't have an awareness of it, or I don't linger in the moment is what really is going on.
Same here. Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so I can call it out, I can see it. And for me personally, I'm really good at reading the room. And if I don't feel good in certain spaces, I don't force myself to be in those spaces. And kind of going back to
Mm.
what what I think the key is when we have people come into our community, we need to stop going to these places. Like we can't
That's
fix
exactly.
we can't fix people who have stereotypes against us. We can't. Like I just don't feel like that's my role in my life. I think there's certain people who feel very compelled and are able to they get to the root of it.
Mm-hmm.
We have to take our power back in teaching people around like what customer service is like, what we require, because then you start to change. That's how you really change how they perceive us culturally or as a people
Mm-hmm.
or as a group of people in that community.
I've
So
had
versus
yeah.
like forcing them to like, well, you need to treat me right because I'm in here and I'm giving you money. No, like, I'm not coming here because you do this, this, and this. I expect this, this, and this. And I'm going to go over
Yes.
here and find the
Yes.
places that do that, because they do have places. Like I've been in places where they're like, hello, very helpful. And they're
Yes.
happy to
Yes.
see you,
Yes.
where they live in the same community as you. And they're just super helpful. And I think that's where we need to empower ourselves and understand that we don't have to take anything. We don't have um, to receive what people give us. We don't, and I think
Agreed.
we've
Agreed.
gotten a bit lazy in that, and I think a lot of it is just because we're traumatized, and it just goes back to that generational trauma that we're carrying, where we can go into places and we're just numb. Kind of like what I
Yeah.
was talking about,
Yeah.
kind of numb. It's just like, okay, whatever, you know, been here, done that. I just want this right here. Give it to me.
I think the silent generation they worked hard, and you know, that would be my mother and her mother. My mother and her mother were very close in age.
Yeah, the silent generation.
Because of when she had her.
Just the fact that they're called the silent generation.
I know.
That says a lot.
I know. Yeah.
And how they raised the baby boomers.
That's correct.
And the baby boomers raised Gen X. Where are you, Gen X?
A little bit Gen X. No.
Are you on the cusp?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So Gen X, not all of Gen X. I think most of, depending on when you started having your children and when you were born, between baby boomers and the end of the baby boomer area, the last one was, which is weird, was 64 is the last of the baby boomer generation.
I don't understand. It's changed now.
And then 65 from on up was what they call Generation X, which is very interesting. And then when you get to 80, 81 is the millennials. And then 2000 is somebody else.
Gen Z.
Gen Z, there we go.
And then you have Gen Alpha. And then now we are in this year starts a new generation of generation.
What is it, every 10 years? Well, no, back then they spread it out. So we're talking 15 years.
It's more than that because Gen Z is what, 2000? 2000?
Well, yeah, they would have to be 2000 because then the millennials are 80, 81 that I didn't really realize. So those born in 80, 81, my goddaughter would be Gen X.
Now I'm so confused.
Well, that says a lot. That says a lot about me, but I don't give a freak.
So, I think you're right. I feel like the generations, the timing has gotten much more compressed because literally right now you have two generations that are underage. You have Alpha.
Well, that's weird. That means then there was another generation they then started at 2010. Or somewhere around that, because that wouldn't make any sense if we just had millennials, then Gen X.
So you have Gen X.
2000.
You have Gen X, Gen Z. So you have Gen X,
Gen Z,
X, Y, Z, and then it starts.
Well, how old is Gen Z? Because we're just at 2025 right now.
It's weird because
you would think the new generation might have started at 2020 and they would be like 5 or whatever or something like that. Versus, was it 2015 that we have? Then they would be 10.
I guess I could technically look it up. Do we want to go down this rabbit hole?
Well, not really, but
the silent generation.
We know where we're going. So the silent generation, and then there was a generation that blamed a lot of baby boomers about something, and I don't know the fight or the right should have come, but I think it was just a time to relax because of the of the fight and everything going on. I don't think that we should have not stopped because there was still, unfortunate battles just to be in skin. I mean, just to be born in this skin. So the silent generation didn't share a lot. Even with women, they thought that they did, but I mean, they had things that were so taboo, like even sharing. For me, we still talk about Black culture, even sharing about sexuality, about certain different things. Now, there's other parents or somebody else who would watch this video and say, well, my mama did. Well, there's a very few exceptions in there, but I'm talking about as a whole. It's just like a certain generation was to be seen and not heard. Some people say that didn't happen with them, and then you can just tell that how they were raised as a parent, that they were just that feisty, some at least. But I'm telling her, I said, and I was at a meeting that the one person said I wasn't. So I said, well, that was you. But for the majority, most of us know that. And even other cultures might have had the same thing. Then I realized how, like, we can go into this conversation, how much alike we are as I do the traveling in this, and, for example, going in the house, everybody from Caucasian or whatever had to choose a light pole the light pole going in the house. So it's just crazy. But to stay focused here.
I did pull up the generations.
Mm-hmm.
So the silent generation is 1925. That's crazy.
But my grandma was
1925
born before
to
that. So
1945.
okay.
And the baby boomers, 46 to 64. Gen
Mm-hmm.
X is 65 to 80.
Yep, that's right.
The millennials,
81.
81 to 96. See,
That's
it doesn't make
crazy.
sense, right?
That
Then
does not make sense.
Gen Z is 97 to 2012. This tracks. And Generation Alpha is 2010 to 2025. And then Generation Beta is now being born.
Anybody have babies? Okay. That's really, yeah, that was short. That was short from 81 to 96. That kind of,
I know, right? But I think they say it has to do with what's going on in the world. And when you look at like just technology, I think technology really kind of drives the generations at this point right now. Because so much has changed.
I know.
And like even now we're in this period of the generational changing. The change is changing as well, but so much hasn't. Because, you know, like just looking at, you know, one thing I realized about my grandmother, because she is part of the silent generation, is that her approach to parenting was very different than my mother. And my grandmother was very much like, you need to do these things because when she grew up, it's like, it was really a state of keeping yourself alive and safe.
Yes.
Like, there was sundown towns where literally they could do whatever the hell they wanted to you if you were in that part of town.
Yes.
During the daylight, yeah, okay, hey. Even to the point where they had Black people work in the town during the day, but you need to get your ass out of here at nighttime or all bets are off. Like just that whole.
And it's the truth of the matter.
Even a thing? Yeah. I can work here during the day, but at nighttime I'm not allowed, or my life is threatened. And so she approached me from that standpoint, whereas my mom was much more. She was kind of like that, but I grew up in like the 80s and not really like the 90s, and I was a latchkey kid. My mom was part of the generation where women went to work. And so that's why we're kind of like that generation that is like survival of the fittest. That's why we are the way we are.
Yeah. That would be, she part of the baby boomer generation.
My mom?
So
your mom?
Yeah,
my mom's
my mom is a silent generation.
Yeah. You're like at the cusp of boomer and but see, I feel like when you're at the end too, so I'm Gen X, but I'm kind of like Zennial is what they call it, because I was born in 79. So I kind of have like, I vibe with the Xers because my brother is a hardcore Xer, but I have millennial tendencies as well, but not to the extreme that they really kind of embody or represent as a millennial.
Yeah, I mean, I just realized there was another generation. So my grandmother and her mother
was that
were part of what they called the greatest generation. I had never heard of. Yes, the greatest generation.
I knew about that.
I've never heard that before. Called GI, also known as GI.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
And my grandfather, I don't know what he was. He was born in 1900. My great.
But they say the silent
he was
generation.
Just my great grandfather.
But wait, this says the silent generation is the greatest generation, or the GI generation.
It's the GI generation. And so my dad's dad, and my great grandfather, or my great grandfather was on the cusp of what now they're calling, before 1901, they're called the lost generation, or the generation, oh, wait a minute, generation preceding 1901 is often referred to as the lost generation. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's
So
1901 to
when I look at the
1947.
evolution,
Mm.
yeah, I look at the evolution of the Black woman, and the evolution we look at from our previous, women that we know, and a lot of them did not share their struggles, at least not mine. It was all about, them molding us to be able to survive. And I like that my grandmother was a very educated woman. There was no TVs except for in her room. Other than that, it was all about, I think I embraced solitude with her. Also, tried to learn the piano. She was very, very gifted. It just amazes me, if I had known how she did that. She was a nurse. She ran businesses. Um, my mother learned a lot from her. I know she kept a clean house. I know that she played the guitar. She could cook. She had restaurants. Her food used to melt in your mouth. And I look, and then she raised my mother primarily by herself. And it's just that right there, that fortitude, and she took her everywhere she went. Um, she was also a beautician. You want to talk about multifaceted, and was good at all she did. I think I have, those traits. So you look at that evolution, and then my mother picking up, and then I learned something about my mom, and then that's another thing, because we can get to talk about the men later, because I've been sure I can speak about this side too. But that that nature. But when we talk about not speaking, and my whole thing is, because of my life, the things that they didn't get to speak about, like our womanhood, and I don't know if they did not know, because of a lot of us didn't know about our the essence of our makeup, except for having babies. I mean, and that is more open today, and I
Do
just
you know why
realized
they
that
don't? Do you know why they
they
don't?
made it was so taboo. I'm like,
But do you know why it's steeped in trauma?
yeah, well,
You,
yes,
I mean, you
yes,
have to
yes.
remember they were raped,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, no doubt. Well, I
and
know what that fears is, but
like
yeah, yeah,
they were bred.
that's a good catch. Yep, 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 yep. Definitely.
So I
Yes.
think it's like, how do you talk about something that is traumatizing for you to speak about? Because it's like
Agreed.
you look at
Agreed.
your child, like you look at your
That
daughter,
brings
because
up
I
something
think
else
about the
too.
fact of like you look at your children back during that time frame, back during slavery, and you know what's happening to you, and you know what has happened to the people that you saw growing up, and you
Yeah,
look at your
yeah.
child, and it's just like, it just breaks my heart, just kind of thinking the fact that you look at your child, and you don't feel like you can keep them safe from this world, that you
Yeah,
don't
and I think that's
know
what they
that you'll
tried to
be
do.
able to like see your child again either. Like
Yeah,
it's
because my
it's just
mother was
so much
always be
generational
careful.
trauma. Yeah, and
Yeah, be
that would
careful, be
usually
careful.
their default is be careful. But
And
then
I'll
you
tell,
not
yeah.
really necessarily knowing like, well, what does that mean? Like, why are you so like, what does that mean? But
I
then
mean,
it's
up
like you
until
do
before
you
my
want to
mother
tell your
passed, yeah.
child that though. I think it's like you want them to be careful, but it's hard to have those conversations because you don't want them to know that that's a potential for them to experience. But then it's like we're also going to things blindly, unaware of the reality of the world too. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how. I don't know. I
No,
understand
I
their
do.
perspective in not having the conversation. But on the flip side, I see how it's a needed conversation to have, because then it can also help support you in and not going blindly into certain situations or being around certain people too.
Well, now we more, I mean, even, I'm just going to keep it real with it. Even the church, I
Mm.
believe had a little bit to do with it as well. You can procreate, but we don't want to talk about how it happens. I mean, really? Really? I
I
remember
know,
in
I don't
school as a
understand that.
woman, I don't know how the guys took it, but in what we call junior high school here, is I remember them having a class. What was it? Oh my God. I was just talking about
Sex ed?
what did they call it? Yeah, but I think they
They
used a
probably
different
didn't
term
call
because
sex
they
back
really,
then.
no, it was called something else. And it wasn't even about that. They talked about a little bit of dynamic of the woman body, and then about babies, but nothing about the innerness of how that goes about. Of course, they didn't talk about intercourse. They sure didn't say it. It wasn't talked about. Oops, it is what it was. So and then so we're in the class with the guys too, going through looking at this. It's like, well, what the hell are you talking about? You know what? Lord. I mean, but you're right. Trauma is huge, and that's where I'm at, and why I said you are going to be the one that transforms your ancestral history. And Alchemist, I have been chosen so to be that, and to transform even with myself, regardless to how late you get to know something. And I desire that my body be changed. I've been traumatized as well. A lot more women that I had no idea have been traumatized.
Every woman
And I
has.
did some research about 1 in 5 Black women has probably had some form of sexual assault, aka rape. And that,
I honestly, I don't know one woman that hasn't. I feel like it's much more than that.
mm,
What I feel has happened because we put things on a scale, and if it doesn't look like this, then you don't think that you were actually sexually assaulted where you were. So I think
yeah,
there's a lot of
yeah.
underreporting of things because they don't equate it as sexual assault. I feel
Well,
like
yeah, go ahead.
the number's higher is what I'm saying, which is sad.
But then you said something else earlier, which obviously has come up to this point, is saying that they didn't say anything when we're talking about the silent generation. Then people say, "Oh, well, why didn't the woman as well?" I know from experience that that, and it's unfortunate because this whole thing becomes with a close parent, not my mom, of having to experience some of that and not feeling able to tell anybody. Who said, why you ain't
Yeah.
tell? I'm like, oh no, it wasn't that easy to come forth and to be believed,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I've seen court situations where they put across that you're the reason why you got assaulted. Really?
Victim
For
blaming.
just being,
Yeah.
for just being me, for just being this woman? Really?
Yeah. That's definitely a narrative that needs to be recoded, because it's like we put all the responsibility on women. Don't tempt them. Don't wear this. Don't say that. Don't
I
drink that.
know.
Don't move like that. It's just like, why is the
Get
burden
it. Yes.
better known
Oh.
as responsibility? That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Put on women,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a two-sided responsibility. I'm not responsible for you. I can't control you, because if I could control you, I would
Yeah.
be like, you don't have access to doing this to anybody. This shouldn't be a
Yes.
thing. It shouldn't be something that you feel compelled to be able to say things and touch things and be entertained by things. I think that's where the conversation needs to be had with not just men, but just women too, because you have some women that believe that that's their purpose too.
Yeah, and it's definitely not. That's just not. Yeah,
So it's a layered conversation that definitely needs to happen, and
yes,
it's just I just think of the generational trauma
that
that
went way, way
into
back.
our DNA still to this day, that subconsciously we some of us are not even aware of the impact in how we carry ourselves, how we hold our body, how comfortable
Yeah,
we feel wearing certain things or being in certain spaces. You know, it's
you
just
just hit on something.
it's
When I was younger, I did not, absolutely did not, and this would have to be the generation one, did not feel comfortable in a dress. Now the stockings, they were another whole thing.
what was it about the dress that wasn't comfortable for
I
you?
felt I felt I know the word now. I didn't know it then, but I felt vulnerable and I felt naked
Mm.
is what had come to me. And didn't know the word vulnerable then, and I'm going back to that time or because they was over there
That's so
that
interesting.
I did not feel comfortable. I did not feel. And it didn't even matter whether I had on one or not because the other stuff I had on that went down, I had on pants, so it didn't really matter. But I did not feel, I felt, and I really didn't like, because I said I would never sleep with no clothes on back in the day. I felt like I did not have on clothes.
That's so interesting that was your experience in a dress. Because my experience in a dress is I used to I didn't mind them from that standpoint, but
Mm-hmm.
every time I wore a dress, my grandma was like, "Close your legs. No, you can't do that. No, no, no,
That's
no.
right.
Da da
That's
da
right.
da.
Cross
Don't
your
climb
legs.
the
Yep.
tree, Nicole. You don't want someone to look." And so it was like, why do you keep putting me in these things if I can't do anything? Like, why am I in a dress?
If you're
And so
outside
for a
playing, you need
really
to be in
long
pants.
time, like I just never really enjoyed wearing dresses because I felt like it restricted my freedom
That too.
to move in a way. Um, but I understand now why my grandmother said that, because she knew that, oh, so and so is looking, old creep boy, pedophile over there, or just
Or just the
she
guys in
just kind of
general. I mean,
knew.
the
She
young
just
men,
kind of
yeah.
knew that we were in a world that you have people that have that type of proclivity and such.
Even the young boys too,
Children.
because obviously they have something that goes on a little bit earlier. And if they have brothers, from what I know, just because of my experience in first grade, so we're talking young.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy who, when I got in trouble, he got in trouble,
What is that,
and
6?
yes, baby, yes, yes. And I remember exactly who it was.
That's so young.
Mm-hmm.
So young, and you don't even really know what is what. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
don't have an understanding, which I know is why a lot of people take advantage of kids because of that. They lean into
Yeah,
that.
well, this was actually the person the same age as me.
But see, a lot of kids they mimic behavior not
That's what
knowing
I
what it
said.
is
That's
they
what I
do.
said. That's right.
It's
Exactly.
sad.
Exactly. Um, and so
Mm,
like you said, the trauma the black woman experience. I mean, and there's a lot of women experience because we could get in a conversation just on women in general, regardless to the culture. But we know, like you said, the traumatic
yeah.
that's in our.
It's much more.
Yeah.
I feel like we as Black women can't talk about the sexual trauma that we've experienced like white women can.
Yeah.
And even, I have to say this, and even white women can't even talk about it.
True that.
So
1, 2, 3, 4.
when you start to look at the layers of it, it's just, we have a problem around sex. And we have a problem around people feeling it's a safety issue in this world. This world is very, it's very unnerving sometimes for me. And, you know, I realized that for a long time, like growing up, I never felt safe in this world.
Oh, that's a fact. That's a fact. That's a fact. That is definitely a fact. And I thought, I'm just going to put it out there. I thought going, I mean, that ain't the reason why I went, but I thought once I got into mail and once they ended up sharing the Uniform Code of Military Justice, oh my God, I said that without the acronym because I can't stand acronyms. So then I thought I'd be safe. We won't go there, but that was not the case either. That was not the case either. So, because of my experience, so it's real. It's real.
I feel like we have to have. This is a conversation that we're going to continue to dive a little deeper about, like sexual trauma and the impact that it has on our current lived experience, excuse me, as well as the generational experience that we carry in our body. But guess what? It's that time.
Yeah. I just thank y'all for joining to have and honor the real conversation, no matter how painful it may be. But the thing of it is to have it so you can heal the pain, you know, culturally, and for those cultures that we, you know, we live in this world with, you know, it's all about me. It's about this song. One of my songs is I Got to Be Real, all about keeping it real. And it's always about transforming, becoming better, always about transforming to releasing. It's always about transforming to rising higher. It's all about transforming to have the conversations that they say are taboo. And the whole reason why is so we can freaking heal. So we can freaking heal so we can continue to deal. So, yeah.
All right. With that, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for being in conversation with me today, Warrioress. And for those of you that are watching, let us know how this resonates with you. Can you relate to any of the stories that we've shared? Because there's been several stories that have been shared in this episode.
Yes.
So be sure to subscribe to the channel, and we hope to see you in a future video. Thanks for watching.
Yes, thank you so much. Deep bow.